Hey guys, we are live. This is Jennifer from The Shooter's Mindset with episode 318. We have our co-host Greg Cannon here tonight.
Hey everyone.
How's it going?
Good.
Ready for some turkey?
Oh, I'm hungry. I'm real hungry.
And we have our guests of the hour. We have Tom Fuller, the match director, founder, mastermind behind the AG Cup. And we have Austin Orgain, who is the most recent winner of the AG Cup. Are you wearing your belt?
No, it's right here behind me. I guess I should have put it on, but I figured I'd get it where you can see it. So
you should have put it on.
The
And you could
reigning
just
champion.
stood up all day long with the whole
just
show. Stand there.
Just aim the camera right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just show the belt.
Yeah.
So how's it going?
It's going good. Just enjoying some deer season and being home.
Well, we're gonna start this show off. I mean, I can't believe anybody would be unfamiliar with Tom, but we're gonna start with you, Tom, and let you just kind of tell a little bit about yourself and how you got into competitive shooting and starting Armageddon Gear and the AG Cup.
Okay, I'll do the short version. I was in the Army, liked shooting, got out, worked for Bushnell, kind of learned the business thing, resigned from Bushnell after several years and put together the Bushnell tactical line, and started Armageddon Gear because there was really, at that time, there was all the big tactical gear companies had been bought up, moved overseas, so there was a big hole in the military market because they have to buy American made. And we got into it. And then was shooting matches, PRS started, got on the ground floor of the PRS, Armageddon Gear took off as the PRS took off, and it's been great.
The rest is history, huh?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been super good.
And then your latest endeavor has been the AG Cup.
The AG Cup. So I've been around the long range shooting, what we call PRS now, since 2009, and it's kind of the same thing year after year after year. Guys go up, the best shooters in the world are showing up to matches. They compete, they win, they pick a certificate, they pick a piece of gear they've already got 10 of, and they go home. And at the end of the year, they're like, man, do the math on the cost of this. And I'm like, man, to make this sustainable, I've seen all the shooting sports, been involved in a lot of them, 3-gun, been to Camp Perry, the shotgun stuff, and they get popular and they die. They get popular and they die off. And as a stakeholder in the PRS, that I want it to last because me and all my employees rely on it. It's like, man, monetize, capitalism works. If we can make an elite series of this sport where guys are getting paid, guys are making money, I think it'll something aspirational to continue to feed the base, because PRS up until this point has been, very wide but not real tall. And do we have something where the top guys can throw it down and compete against each other? Because at a normal match, a guy like Austin may be competing against the guy that's his first match. And when it's everybody there is as good, I think Austin would agree, it adds, and the stakes are high, it adds a whole nother level of competition that these guys haven't seen before until this. So yeah, I think it's working. I think it's going well. And hopefully we've got something that's got legs and it's going to be around for a long time.
That's awesome. We're going to talk a little bit more about the AG Cup in a minute, but I want to give Austin a chance. For anybody that doesn't know you, how did you get into shooting, and tell us about your latest accomplishment?
I guess I could kind of do the short version too. I started off as a kid. I was always kind of interested in guns, and my parents really didn't hunt. They didn't really shoot. I don't know where I got the drive from. And then 4-H kind of came along, and they were doing some pellet rifle and pellet pistol, so I got into that. And then later on, into some trap shooting, skeet shooting, shotgun stuff. I didn't actually start shooting any kind of long range anything until I was out of college, and I had a job and could finally start affording to buy my own rifles. And I was actually working in Woodward, Oklahoma, which is where Butch's Guns is headquartered, and just got to going in and out of the store and got to know those guys, and ended up buying my first custom rifle there. They kind of helped me get started in the long range stuff. Got started with them. They did some small monthly matches, and then I got into the OPPS, which is Oklahoma's club, their series, and those guys were really helpful. It's we got a really, really good bunch of people here in Oklahoma to help that are always willing to help, and those guys were kind of instrumental of that. And, once I started, I just kind of took to it like a duck to water, and I really, really enjoyed it and started chasing some matches.
So how long have you actually been in the precision rifle game?
So let's see, 2015 is when I kind of first started shooting long range stuff. And then 2016 rifles only was my first PRS match as a member. And so I shot that, and I shot quite a few that year.
Pretty good to just have been doing it a few years and then end up on top at the AG Cup with some of the best shooters around.
Yeah, for sure. It's a blessing, that's for sure.
Pretty amazing. So back to the AG Cup, you kind of told us what it is, and I know the money, but what else sets the AG Cup apart from other matches?
So for me, it's like Tom said. I mean, you are shooting against the best of the best in the country. Anybody who even thinks they have a shot at being competitive at the AG Cup is going to be there because, I mean, why wouldn't you? There's a ton of money, and there's a ton of different ways to win money. You don't just have to win first place. You could win stages. You could have won day money. And I think, Tom had kind of asked us this year at Wisconsin some of our thoughts, and some of the better shooters were there. And we kind of shared with him, and I guess he liked the idea because he implemented a few of the things, and I thought it was great. I really think the format and the way that he did it this year was awesome. Everybody had a chance to win money. So, and then with that kind of money and those kind of shooters there, the pressure is definitely there. I know a lot of guys were feeling it, and I think they'd all agree with me, especially just rolling in on day one. And I think being there last year probably helped quite a bit because we felt that pressure last year starting off on the first day. This is also my first 3-day match, so I haven't ever shot like that 3 days in a row, especially on this big of a match. It was a reasonably high round count for a 3-day match, so. But it was a lot of fun.
I will say I don't think I've ever seen this group as tentative about their shooting as I did there. It was just interesting how people were slowing down, and
yeah,
well, it was neat to watch. I've never seen a lot of y'all rattled, and day one there were some really rattled people.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, I was probably one of them. I didn't start off very well on the first half of day one. I was the first couple of stages were kind of rough. I didn't start off like I wanted to, and I knew by the lunch break I knew that I was really going to have to pick it up, or I wasn't even going to be shooting in day two, much less day three. So I really picked it up the second half of day one and finished plenty well enough to make day two. So
yeah, it was really crazy watching a lot of you guys come off of stages that kind of the same way I come off of stages. Sometimes just kind of like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, well, and it was pretty tough. They kind of had that hurricane come through a few days before, and the wind was. I'm no stranger to shooting in the wind out here in Oklahoma. I mean, if you guys can't hear, it's probably blowing 25 right now. But just kind of the way those lanes are and the way the wind comes in, any little vector change can come over the trees a little bit different. And it had enough value where it mattered quite a bit. And the stages were challenging targets. So it made for a really tough match. Plus everybody's nervous. And then there's the aspect of you don't get to watch anybody else shoot. You don't get to watch anybody and how they, really how they shoot it. You don't get to stand behind them and watch any trace to see what the wind tendencies are doing or anything like that. So you're just kind of all on your own. And that definitely is worth some points. And I do think that that does separate a lot of people.
Let's say, I'm still fairly new to this. I'm definitely the newest shooter out of the four of us. But the one place that I've shot more than any place else is there at Arena. I've shot Phil's matches out there. They were awesome. Been out there for a few other things. So I've been out there a ton. I have never in my life seen wind like that out there.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane for that facility. Normally it's a left edge and hold it facility.
Yeah.
But it was definitely something different out there.
Yeah, it made it tough the first day. Didn't seem to be as bad on day 2 and 3. I mean, I know some of the guys were saying that was still more wind than is usually there, but it wasn't too bad.
Well, the interesting thing is that I shoot at Arena a lot. It's an hour and a half from here.
Oh, lucky.
And both years at the AG Cup were the worst winds I've ever seen down there. I mean, it wasn't no cakewalk last year, was it, Austin?
No, it's tough last year too.
But you know what? You got to see the morning of day 2. No, it was the morning of day 3 when the wind was really calm, and then it picked up and got kind of crazy. I was starting to sweat it because we had shot 2 stages, and there was like tons of cleans. And I'm like, gosh, man, it's hard to separate a group of competitors that are at this level in a 100-round day. I mean, I'm like, dude, we're going to have ties stacked up forever. And then the wind came, and it was switchy, and it was up and down, and guys were holding center, and 2 mills and all over a couple of hours. And that I was glad to see it as the guy trying to, not wanting to see 10 ties, in a money spot. So, but it did make it hard for you guys. But I think the fact that you don't get to sit there, I mean, look, everybody that made it to the AG Cup in their own right are very talented, competitors. And, but we all know, I mean, you go to the Pro-Am at K&M, and when the pro tells the amateur, here's your wind hold, just break it right and pull the trigger, and I'll give you your correction. You got a lot of AMs beating pros because of that. So, everybody that, like I said, everybody that made it there deserved to be there for sure. They're great, great shooters in their own right. But when you don't have that ability to see the wind, make your best guess, and then have the plan B, I didn't hit. Okay, it must have been this. You can see where that is. And I'm not calling anybody out specifically. I'm just saying some guys are great at that, and some guys aren't, and they rely on being able to watch.
Yeah.
Or being able to everybody share a wind call with them. So
Well,
there's a difference in being able to pull the trigger well, and there's a difference in doing it all at the same time.
We did have a match director that decided to hang a bunch of the targets on the edge of berms, so we didn't really see very many of those. You said about seeing them easy or not, but I mean, it's kind of one thing. Just a little insider look. One thing that I say in our class is, if you miss and you don't know where you missed, you either have to hold more or you have to hold less. There's not really a lot of people will hold the same shot and send it again.
Yeah, that's bad. If holding it the same, we'll hit it the next time.
So how many people won money at the AG Cup? I'm asking because I thought it was really cool that there was a lot of, like Austin said, a lot of chances to win money without being the top. A lot of people won stages. Do you know how many different people walked away with any money?
I don't, and that's a question. I should know that. There were 35 different checks written, and the smallest was $1,000. So, I mean, there were 35 different opportunities to win money. And there were 50 competitors, or 42 that started day 1. So, I mean, on day 1, there were 11 opportunities to win money. Day 2, there was 11. And day 3, there was 13. So it's a lot of opportunities. So, 35 different checks written. A lot of guys doubled down. Some guys went home with a stack of checks,
Austin, how many checks you got?
Let's see. I got from just this year.
Yeah.
I brought 4 this year.
Nice.
But I thought it was neat that day 1, the overall winner
5,
was
sorry.
different than the day 2, which was different from the overall. I thought it was neat how it wasn't just like one person that ran it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's going to be excellent for retaining shooters for the next year. Because if you got, I know the first year you had 20 shooters and you had 19 people that went home broke and sad. But you have a lot more shooters this year that went home and they're like, shit, man, I won $1,000 this year.
Well, they got
Yeah.
$1,000 last year for stage.
Okay, yeah, that is true. I forgot about
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, I won 4 stages last year and 4 stages this year. So last year wasn't, a kick in the pants. It was still a pretty good payday, more than you're gonna, more than you'd win at most any other matches.
So
Got
in the
your money
last,
back.
in the last 2 years, your shooting hobby has earned you $44,000.
Yeah, just AG Cup.
Right. And yeah, that's and that's just the cup. I'm sure if I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure you won some checks along the way as well.
Yeah.
So you probably won 45,000 over this year and last year.
Yeah, probably a little more than that. I think. Trying to
Okay.
think of what checks I won, because I won almost 1,000 at one match.
Right.
I didn't actually win any of the AG Cup qualifiers, but I got pretty close on a couple of them. So yeah, I mean, it probably is. It's in the upper 40, in the mid to upper 40,000. So.
Well, the reason we did, Jennifer, you alluded to the fact that it was a cut, went back to 0 every day with, it was like 3 individual 1-day matches as opposed to a 3-day match. Well, going into day 3, if somebody had a 10-point lead going into day 3, or hell, even a 5-point lead, it kind of makes the last day kind of boring, right? I mean, it's like, okay, well, it's his to lose. And I think this format really changed, everything. I mean, the mindset of the competitors, everything. It was, I guess it depends on where you're sitting, how you like that. but it is what it is. It's like, one of the highest paid individual sports there is golf, and that's how that is. I mean, you gotta bring it every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I
was kind of one of the skeptics at first about it, but I sure liked it now.
Well, it's all perspective.
I bet you do.
Yeah. No, it's good. I mean, I was kind of a skeptic, but at the same time, I thought I want to see how it plays out, because you're right. If a guy comes in and just killed it on 2 days, and then it has a 5 or 10 point lead on day 3 in a match like that, you're just like, well, as long as he doesn't just tank, he's got it. And the way he did it is 12 guys had a chance. Didn't matter. All 12 guys had a chance going in.
Well, I didn't do this math, but I damn sure know somebody has, probably Clay, who actually hit more targets in all 3 days.
So I didn't do the math either, but I've heard from a couple of guys that I trust their math. So Tate and Dave Preston tied for the highest hits on all 3 days, and I was 2 points behind them for third.
Okay. So, and that's just one of those interesting things that this format, and so there's a lot of ways to kind of couch that or gauge that, and maybe, the pressure was higher last day, or who knows? I mean, there's so many reasons you can say, hey, Austin just shot better the last day, or maybe the pressure got to the other guys. I doubt it, knowing both of them. But I don't know. I mean, but again, from their perspective, Dave didn't get a cup. You and Tate did, so maybe he was like, man, it should have been a cumulative score.
Well, I mean, we knew it going in, and that's kind of what I talked to him about. I said, man, you shot really good all weekend. It was almost as consistent of a weekend as you can have. You finished third on 3 days. But we knew going in what it was going to be, so it's not like it was a surprise or anything.
Right.
I tell you what, I have never been to a match. Normally you go to a PRS match, and the top probably 10 shooters, somehow they telepathically know what each other's scores are all day, and they're ahead of each other. These guys, they were, Jen's sitting there doing math live on our podcast. Well, this person got this many points, and then if they get this many on this stage, they're going to pull 2 points ahead of this person and they'll be one of the 3 people available for the win. And all the shooters were doing the same thing, towards the end of the day, knowing people's season points. They're like, oh, this person had this many season points. And they're sitting there busting out pieces of paper and calculators. And, I think he did a really good job of presenting the scores as fast as possible with the live scoreboard that Haywood was updating, after every couple stages or whatever. But these guys were really into it.
Yeah, that was really cool. I really liked the live scoreboard like that.
Dude, that was so that was an idea that I had, and I Haywood is kind of like, he'll admit this. This is not a bust on him. He geeks out on technology and stuff like that, like big time.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him and I was like, man, how about a live scoreboard? I'm on it. I got it. I can figure this out. We can do it. And that really did add a level. I mean, okay, I hope Robert Brantley's watching. Probably not, but Brantley is just one of the greatest dudes in the world. And he went up to one of the last stages on day 2, thinking he had to hit a 8 to make it to day 3. And he didn't. It was his worst stage of the day. And he turned around and looked at me, and I was like, good job. And he was defeated. And he goes, no, I tanked it. I choked. And he did. He choked because he looked at the score and was like, I got to go up here and get an 8 on a stage that he totally easy to get an 8. And choked because he was worried about the score. But he did the math wrong. But because he did the math, went up there to the stage, he did bad. But he actually did make it. I said, dude, you're in. He goes, no, I'm not in. I didn't. It's like, dude, you made it to day 3. You cannot be. It was just, and he goes, that's it. And on day 3, he said, I did not look at the scoreboard. I shot my stage and I went back and I just talked and got in my own head. And I didn't even look at the score the whole day because I realized that screwed me. But some guys stood there by it the whole time. And I guess, different things motivate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So, Austin, several different people have had several different mindsets going into this game. And we heard of people changing mindsets from day to day or stage to stage. Kind of what was your mindset going into it? Do you change it at all throughout? Were you trying to look at the scoreboard and see what was going on? Were you going for stage wins? Were you going for the match win?
I wasn't really going necessarily for stage wins. Honestly, after the first few stages on day 1, I was just, I was like, man, I've got to step it up. I've got to get back in the game. I've got to get focused and pick it up, or I'm not going to be making it to day 2 or 3. So that was kind of my mindset. I really wasn't gunning for stages. I didn't win any stages on day 1. I didn't have a stellar day 1. I didn't feel like I felt like I had a pretty less than mediocre day. Luckily, I was able to make it to day 2. Day 2, everything felt pretty comfortable. Day 2 kind of was rolling really well. I won 3 stages on day 2. And actually, the 2 stages that I didn't shoot that well were the long-range stage off the top of the Connex, and then the other stage that was in that middle Connex. And I shot pretty poorly on both of those. I think I shot a 4 and a 6. Shot a 4 and a 6 on those. And other than that, I think I was 3 or 4 points out of winning the day. So if I would have just had one of those stages would have went a little bit more my way, I was right there in the running for the day. But I just kind of settled in and got comfortable and everything was flowing. And then when that happens for me, I just tend to shoot a little bit faster. And for me, whenever I shot the spool stage, I didn't feel like I was moving fast at all. I just felt like I was being smooth and kind of running through it. And I got done and everybody was kind of cheering. And I was like, well, okay. Well, I think I won the stage by like 27 seconds or something like that. And didn't feel like I was moving fast. So
You were shooting pretty quick.
yeah, I don't know, okay, so there is one stage that I was going for the stage win on. I did push it and I shot it way faster than I ever shoot it. And that's the skill stage. But
That was fun to watch.
I knew what I had to do. So I cheated on the scoreboard over there, right? And I walked over there and was looking at it. I knew John Pinch and Preston were up a couple of points on me going in that last stage. So if either one of those were to clean the spools, I couldn't win the day. But I knew I had enough points to where I only had to hit 1 or 2 off of the PRS barricade to make it to day 3. Well, I thought, well, if I don't win, not making any money on that day, so I might as well go for a stage win here. So I got to watch Preston shoot. He cleaned it. I think, it was Preston shoot. He cleaned it. So I was last to shoot it, and I was like, I might as well go for it. And so, I mean, normally I'm a 50 to 55 second PRS barricade shooter. There was a couple of those shots that I broke, and I was like, he called impact. I'm like, okay, keep going, I guess.
What was your time on that?
37 or 38 seconds, I think. Something like that.
It's somewhere in our line.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I
that
know
was.
guys have ran it faster. Some guys have run it in 34 or 35 seconds in competition. That's not me, though. I mean, that probably blew my competition time out by over 10 seconds. So
I remember you saying that. It was so fun to watch because everybody was like, the PRS barricade is the comfort zone, right? Everybody knows how to do it. And so everybody was going for speed on that one. I feel like for some reason that one stage, everybody wanted to win. I feel like people have practiced it enough that they kind of know where they can gauge where they can shoot and clean it. So
yeah.
Y'all were just going for it. And, Morgan thought he won it. And, who else was it?
I feel so bad
Morgan
for
had
Morgan. He was like, this is in my, he's like, stage win. It's here. The stage win is here in my hat. And he went off. He came back 18 seconds later and he was beat. And then he got beat again.
Well, what's so funny is he came back and he started talking. He said, I'm going to talk smack. And somebody goes, you can't talk smack, bro. And he goes, why? Yeah, I can. And they were like, no, you can't. And he's like, well, I got it. And they were like, no, you just got beat, bro. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, so Steve Eames shot it in 40-something seconds. I think Preston had it at 47 or 48 seconds. Steve Eames shot it in 46 with a tripod, which is pretty impressive. And then Morgan came along and beat that. And then one or two guys after Morgan, Charles Roberts beat his time. And Charles was second to last guy. And then I was the last guy. So I definitely knew what I had to beat.
You had a good position for that one.
It was a little wild.
Yeah, we were just sitting there just kind of chilling. We were sitting there chatting with John Scout and, cameras kind of going, just having a good time, whatever. And then the last 5 shooters, that stage got real intense real quick.
It was a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun knowing that I could go for it. Normally, I just want the points. I'm not so much worried about that tiebreaker time. I'm looking to get to 8 points, but it was kind of fun just, getting to kind of throw everything off and be like, man, I get to go for it. It's just like in a practice run. I'm just going to run as fast as I can. If I miss one, I'll slow down.
Well, you know how you said, I wasn't going for stage wins or anything, but, I guess that this year, knowing where you set and everything, I mean, the AG Cup 2019, the highlight reel of the whole match was you shooting the KYL. Well, when you went up to shoot it, it was the last stage of the last day.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, you think he's going to go try to get the fastest time again? I was like, I don't think so. Not this year.
So I was asked, I think two different people asked me that, and they said, right before I was going, they said, man, are you going to go for it? Are you going to go for it? And I said, no, not this year. He said, why not? You shot it so fast. And I was like, man, I wasn't in the position to win the match last year, and I am this year. So I'm going to try to get points. And Clay had done the math and on everybody else. And he said, I think you can get it at 7. He said, nobody can catch you if you get an 8. So honestly, I'm really glad that was a prone stage, because that was the most nervous I've been in a while, shooting in a long while. But I mean, what do you do when you got a couple of point leads going into the last stage for $35,000? Luckily, it was a prone stage, and it was a KYL, which I happen to be pretty fond of KYLs and TYLs, so it worked out to my advantage. I'm not gonna lie, when I hit that little bitty target, you said it's 2 inches, but I don't think that thing was 2 inches. That was a little target at 408 yards. When I hit it the first time through, I mean, in my head, it was just a little mini celebration, because I'm going, I just hit that little one. These next 4 are nothing, right? Hey, and the funny thing is, though, if I would have hit the little target on the last time through, I'd have won the stage anyway, because nobody hit it twice. So.
Wow. The last 2 stages of the match, I wanted to be closer for the cameras and everything, but I also wanted to be stages that you'd see some movement. And it worked. And the KOL is always a stage you're going to see some movement, So, and the bass, the Zoom based bass stage turned out to be kind of the same,
Yeah.
easier than the KOL, but scores are about
It was
the
a
same
neat
as far
stage,
as
though.
drops.
Mm-hmm. Hey, let's head over and hit some lives real quick. We've had lots of people commenting. Tons of people said hi to everybody and awesome hair and whatnot.
Thanks.
That was to Tom.
Hey.
We actually had people saying that you should visit Tom's barber.
That I should put a hat on. Hey, it's No Shave November.
Hey,
no haircut November. It's.
I feel you there. Let's see. Eric Lundberg, the RO with the mostest, said it was a great event, even greater people. And Carrie Gordon King said, Jennifer and Greg, thank you for your awesome coverage of the AG Cup. So if you are curious about what this AG Cup thing is we're talking about, scroll down a little bit on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. We have an ungodly amount of live videos. Probably the best one would be our last video of the final 2 stages where Jen's sitting there doing the math in her head and, telling people, you're getting the live updates. Hey, if he hits an 8, he wins. If he gets a 7, he loses, stuff like that. Definitely check those videos out. Swanee said he's coming next year, which is going to be awesome. Greg Morris said, we were talking about the number of different stage winners. He said 15 or 16 different stage winners over the 3 days.
Sounds right.
Gina said she thought the format was awesome. It was the best reality shooting show on this year. But it really was. Like, it was, I felt like I was on the set of like a reality show or something with the live scoreboard and the way everything was laid out this year. Like, last year it was super intense and it was like, high stakes and high tension. And this year it was super alive. We knew what was going on the whole time.
I think last year everybody was so nervous to talk because there's so much talk about no sharing information and everything. On day one, everybody we're just sitting away from each other, not saying a word, and
social distancing.
Yeah, after day one, we were all like, "Man, that sucked. That was not fun at all." So day two, we were all we all like to talk smack, and kind of gig each other and stuff. And so day two, we were just like, "All right, we're talking, not talking about the shooting portion of it, not talking about wind holds or anything like that, but just giving each other crap and just, cutting it up." And it was a lot better. So this year, we just kind of did the same thing. We were just all cutting it up. Nobody was sharing any information, but we were still smack talking and trying to get in each other's heads. So.
People were really at home, really watching it too. Like, I didn't know how much people would really, watch, but the live stream that we did, the last one of the, it made the difference. We had 120 to 150 viewers nonstop the whole 2 hour or hour and a half, however long it was that we were live. It never dropped. Like, there were people on there watching the whole time. People were wanting to know, and people were commenting and asking questions, and people really at home wanted to know how y'all were doing and who was in the lead, and it was kind of neat.
Yeah, we were getting texts and messages and everything. How's this person doing? Tell this person good luck, blah, blah, blah. But we had a ton of people watching, which was cool. So we'll definitely make sure we're out there next year doing the same thing. This year was a learning experience. Learned a lot about audio at the range and whatnot. And we'll definitely make a better experience for everyone next year. So Eric Lundberg said, props to Haywood. He did great with the live scoreboard. And Ryan Hayes said that Haywood and Jen made a good team of getting the scores to everybody real quick. And I think that's it for live at the moment. So we'll go into our next thing. We've kind of touched on this here and there and everywhere. But so this is the highest stakes precision rifle match in the world. There's cameras everywhere. There's, nothing's not going to be seen. There's money on the line. There's time on the line. There's cameras. And we're actually going to ask this question to 3 different people: Austin, Tom, and Eric, if you're still watching. Eric Lundberg, what was the difference in the stress level in between this match and a regular PRS 2-day match for both the shooter, the match director, and the RO?
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Austin, because on my screen you're on the top.
Okay. Man, I mean, there's no comparison. There really isn't. There's not a 2-day regular season match that's anywhere close to it. The pressure is definitely there. The cameras are everywhere, and I think it even brought a different aspect to it. With last year, Shooting USA was filming everything, and everything was going to be edited down and stuff. This year it was live, so everything that was going on was live.
Sorry.
So, yeah, so you could.
There were a couple of stages that afterwards I was like, oh God, I feel really bad. Like,
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't know you were going to
that's
bomb
it.
it or I wouldn't have videoed that one.
Yeah.
Or a couple times we might have left the live camera unattended and people didn't realize it was still on.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that. So, you got to watch some of the things you say and some of the stuff you do. I'll be talking crap about some of them. They'd be watching it. So,
True.
and it's just, it's a ton of money. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, man, that cup is cool.
That is a pretty cool cup. I drink beer out of it.
Those trophies
What
are
was more
awesome.
pressure? The bead live and the cameras and all, the money or the scoreboard?
It depends on what time of the day it was or what day it was. So down towards the end of it, the last couple of stages, whenever I knew I had a chance, I knew I had a good chance, it was definitely the money. Kind of trying to get into day 3, the first 2 days was the scoreboard, watching the scoreboard and how it was changing every time. And it was really, until both squads shot both stages, it was really hard to tell exactly where you were.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at it like, man, I'm not doing very good, but this score isn't in and their score. So you had to wait for both of them to come in and really see where you lined out. But, I guess what was it, 4 or 5 times a day, whatever it was when we switched stages, you got to see exactly where you're sitting. So that was definitely, depending on where you're sitting, that was definitely some pressure.
I wonder if we need to change.
I don't know that live was really ever that much pressure. I didn't. It was definitely there, but that was kind of in the back of your head. That wasn't something I was too worried about. I was trying to stay focused on shooting. So.
I wonder if we should change the scoreboard to be like golf. Like golf, they have some holes that are par 3 and some that are par 5. So they don't give the overall, what their overall shot score is. They give how much they're off of par, right? So
you could do that. How many?
I wonder if we
down?
did how many you're down.
Yeah.
If that would kind of give a more, I don't know.
So we could have Tom shoot the whole match on Thursday.
Have a par.
And set Tom's score as the par.
How far above par they are. Yeah. Dude, I shot the entire match last year. This year I just shot a few targets. I had some new hangers I wanted to make sure, and then I had some positions. I was like, I don't know, let me get down here. I didn't shoot the whole match this year. I know every match director should, but I didn't. But last year I shot the whole match. Dude, I was like, God, this kicked my ass. But, oh, well, these guys are way better than me, so we're just rolling.
And it wasn't even windy when you shot it.
And I had no stress.
Yeah.
I'm just shooting it because. And,
So I think that would be a really fun experiment to have,
Well, here's the problem
grab
with
two shooters, like a top 25% and a bottom 25% shooter. And the next weekend after the match, bring them back and have them shoot all the same stages again and compare their scores during the match versus just like, hey, we're, losers buying beer for the 3 of us tonight.
yeah.
So Tom, you answer that question now for the match director.
Okay, so well, just in true Tom fashion, I don't have a lot of experience as a match director, but the biggest stress for me, was fairness, and because there's money. I mean, I'm an empathetic guy, man. I want everybody to win. I don't know what's happened to me. 10 years out of the Army, and now I care about people's feelings. I don't know. I was, 10 years ago, I was a sergeant major, didn't give a shit about whatever. But now it's just like, here's my intent. You heard it earlier in the AG Cup. Make an event that's aspirational, help both sport, give the top guys something. But at the same time, and these guys have invested a lot to be there. And now once it starts, it's not about the future of the sport. It's not about growing the PRS or anything like that. It's all about these guys that are here and the investment they made to be here today and throughout the whole year, the investment they made to be there. And everything's just got to be above board and as perfect as you can make it. And I think there's not, because of the, the size of the match, I can do things like, there's no, man, I got to shoot the long range stage in the morning and he had to shoot it in the afternoon and the wind picked up. We can alleviate that kind of stuff. You can have similar sized targets at similar distance in the same direction, and you can alleviate all that stuff. But man, it was just scoring it properly. It stressed me out more than anything, is just making sure we scored this properly. Dude, the day 3 was the craziest mirage. I don't understand. I mean,
I have never seen mirage like that. I've only shot on the East Coast, but
it was so bad. There were
mirage like
4
that.
people on glass and nobody could tell if it hit. And the only way they were telling if it was an impact is they had cameras on the actual target so that it takes the mirage out, right? Because the camera's right there and there's no mirage.
I'm
And they were
right
watching it.
I'm telling you right now, I'll give you a little sneak peek into 2021. That camera saved we would have probably had to throw those a couple stages out.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to do that. I mean, at the AG Cup, are you kidding me? But we had those target vision cameras. And basically it's a camera you set on the ground in front of the target, and we have a repeater, and then we have the receiver back at, and we've got an app on our iPads. You're literally looking at the target from 10 feet away. I mean, so you can see perfectly. I mean, there's no question that you can see on that, but I don't care how good of an RO you are. I don't care how many times you've seen bullets go down range. You could not tell on some of those. And that target cam saved our butts, man. It saved our butts. So, so thankful we had those there on the right stages at the right times. I mean, it was to the point, I'll tell you how stressed I was about making sure every shot count. I mean, and then the stress, finally I had to tell the guys to just shut up. I mean, guys that maybe watched out on day 2 are watching their buddies shoot on day 3, and my ROs are stressed too. Eric said, hey, making every shot count with that kind of money on the line was, and, you'll read his response in a minute, but guys are like, he hit that. He hit, they can't help it. They're emotional for their friends and all. I mean, the 1,000 for 1,000, 16 circle at 1,000. Guys were standing back there saying, no, that was so wrong. That was so wrong. And when that stage was over, I pulled the target. It's sitting, it's literally sitting on the floor 10 feet away from me. It was a freshly painted target when we started the stage. I looked at how many points we gave for that entire stage all day long and counted hits on that target. And I think we nailed it perfectly because of that target camera. So, I mean, I've like sitting here with that thing. I mean, I've counted them 100 times, and if we're off, it's off by 1 hit. It's just that simple. So my ROs did a great job. The target vision camera really saved our butt. But fairness, man, I just man, when you've got a guy that's invested this much to show up here and the level these guys are at, if you make one bad call, it can affect the outcome. We've got to do everything we can to make sure there's no bad calls. So 2021, Haywood is sending me a list. We're looking at buying our own, all the Wi-Fi stuff and the control boxes and repeaters, and actually buying security cameras and making our own target system that's got a lot faster lag time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And we're going to experiment with wired systems and Wi-Fi systems just to make sure, man, because, it's that important. It's that important. So if we can do that, I think it'll make a lot of sense. And we've got plenty of time. Haywood's putting together a list for stuff for me to buy, and he's going to play with it. He's going to test it down at Altus, and hopefully we'll have it spread. And we'll buy as many systems. We'll put them together as many systems like that as we need to make this work.
And so, from a kind of an outsider perspective, I didn't shoot the match. I'm not running the match. I'm not ROing the match, but I was there at the match. And Tom, it's super obvious that you were trying as hard as you possibly can to make sure that every competitor has a fair chance, that everybody's treated fairly, everybody, I could say the same thing 3 times, but that's basically the biggest thing.
I've never seen you as stressed either, Tom. You were walking around, you were like,
oh, I know.
You finally relaxed when it was over, but like, dude, you were like pins and needles. You were like strung tight the whole weekend because you wanted everybody to have a good time. You wanted everything to be perfect. And every time anything messed up, you were just like, oh my God. And I'm like, but you handled it great.
Yeah.
Like, things are going to happen.
I bet his lips are raw from dipping 2 or 3 cans of snuff a day. He had to start putting an upper decker.
Listen, man. At one point, I think I had to dip in like top and bottom at the same time. But yeah, and you know what? During the AG Cup, I wasn't drinking as much as I usually do, so that added to it. So it's like, oh my God.
I know, it was really weird. Sober Tom Fuller walking me back to my cabin at night.
God. Well, look, man.
He drank enough for you. It's okay.
Yeah, I took care of you, man.
It was a 50-person match, and at the AG Cup, it's an open bar for the entire thing.
I drank half.
Well, I think we went through 10 fifths of Jack Daniels. I mean, that's a lot of dang Jack Daniels.
There's a lot of it. I didn't have any of that.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of it drank, man. I don't know, but.
So that is one thing to note. The people that were still out there at 3 with me were not there on day 3.
No names will be mentioned, but you're right.
All right, let's go to while we're on 3s. Our third person asked about the stress. Eric, the super master RO, like he's always like the most calm. He sees everything, but there's one particular moment on the shootout where Tom looked at him after everybody's there saying something different. This person's saying this person saying that, and Tom looks at him and goes, "I need a call." And the look on Eric's face, because this was, Jen, talk about the shoot off a little bit. Tell us like how crazy that was.
Was it the 4th target that it happened on? I think it was about the 4th.
I think
it was hard to see anyway. Thick mirage, very difficult. We're down. This is a shoot off for who is going to be in 3rd place, right? So there's money on the line, and
thousands of dollars
on the line. It's a KYL, and you've got them there. One of them shoots one target, and then the other one shoots it. And if they both hit, then they move to target 2 and they reverse. And this shooter shoots it first and then this one. And they can't be on glass watching each other while they're shooting. So the ROs are on glass. So they both hit the first target. They both hit the second target. They both hit the third. They get to the 4th, and the first one is an impact. And the second one, it wiggled. Was it a hit? Was it not a hit? Was it an impact or not? And poor Eric Lundberg is back there on the glass, and everybody, there's probably 40 people standing around watching, literally.
Probably. Yeah, pretty much.
Cameras everywhere. We're live. Scouting's over there, video and everything, like right up on the shooters. And everybody turns around and looks at Eric, and he's like, and he called an impact. And from what I heard later, the guys went back and watched it on camera because the person that won wanted to make sure that it was not an unfair, call, because there's money on the line. I mean, to me, props to him for, carrying that much, that he really, it meant a lot to, it was Tate Streeter, and it meant a lot to him that he, didn't get it if he didn't get it, if he really didn't get it. So they went back and watched, I think John Scouten had
some camera that was target, like this big.
Yeah.
And so they went back, and so Eric's call was right. It was an impact. So Tate ended up winning.
Obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I shoot with Tate and I shoot with Clay all the time, and I know what they see and how much they watch it. And Tate said Clay was directly behind him and could see the trace. He said impact, and Tate said, "Yeah, I got it." So I knew I wasn't even on glass. I didn't have a dog in the fight, so I was just watching. But when both of those guys said it, I knew that it probably was one. And I'm really glad they pulled up the footage on a computer screen, on a high def screen, and could see it and verify it. So there was.
We could zoom it in and we put it in slow motion, and it was a hit. But
that's good.
But it was one of those that it was just
just barely.
Yep. It just
By the skin of his teeth.
And I've got that target. I've got that target sitting out here in my shed out here in the warehouse. Might send that to Tate. But I feel good. You know how I said, that was my biggest worry. And day 3 was the only time that I think it was actually hard to make calls.
Yeah.
But man,
I
feel like we did it right. So
a bunch of us guys, we've had long conversations about how do we make matches as fair as we possibly can. And like on day 1 with 50 shooters, it's really hard because you can't just split up into 2 squads and shoot 2 stages and flip-flop. But the way you did it and had, the 5 stages of fairly similar ranges and then did the flip-flop, I think with that many shooters, that's as fair as you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously it got easier as the squads went down and the numbers went down, because then you're just having to do it on 2 stages.
I thought it was great, though, that y'all had all that technology, and so it didn't, all the pressure was on Eric for that moment. Like, was it a hit or was it not? Tell me if it was an impact. I need a call. And he was like, impact, But you could tell he didn't want to be wrong because so much money's on the line. And I mean, props to y'all for having all the technology out there to where you could, if it was a second guess, you could go back and watch and see it, So it was hard conditions on Sunday with the Mirage. I don't think I've ever seen Mirage like that.
I never have.
Well, you guys we've all been to matches. I mean, I could run the match and be like, hey, it's a match. It is what it is. You get luck of the draw, go, let's run the match. But I have sweated all those little details, man. I mean, last year we tried to record everything with phone scopes and things like that. That didn't work. Every time we needed it, something wasn't right. I'm like, okay, that's not going to work, but we're going to make. But I mean, when this kind of money's on the line, and this money's going to keep growing as well. I mean, we gave away 50,000. Now we give away 90,000. It's going to keep growing. We've got to have the solution for our sport. I mean, every sport. I mean, look, NFL after years went to an instant replay. We have that ability. Maybe not with 50 shooters doing 4 squads at a time, but we do in some ways. So the target vision cameras are very, very helpful. The lag time's slow, so you can actually miss the impact. But if the target's painted, you'll see the wobble, you'll see something, but you might miss that actual impact because of the frame rate, right? But you will see. But when a bullet hits the target and dings the paint, you can actually touch it, and where your finger touched, it colors that impact mark. So now you can see the new impact mark. It's pretty cool technology, and it works well. But we can do it with faster lag times, and our challenge is the first system we're setting up is that it's recordable. It's like a DVR. You're watching it, but if you have a question, you can go back and watch it again. So I think if a series like this, if something in the AG Cup is to get to where it's even more money, we've got to have that. We've got to have that ability. The problem is it slows everything down, and now you're shooting. You're slowing the shooting down, and you got to get it in before dark. I mean, our sport's unique in a lot of ways. We can't turn lights on and keep going. I mean, we have to. You can't slow it down a lot. Conditions change even up minute to minute. So you want things to flow and get it done. But I think if we have these systems, I mean, hell, a couple of years ago we didn't have target hit indicators. Now we do. That's a huge advance. So I think cameras and the ability to do the replay is going to be huge. And the cameras up close that you can see real time and do a replay. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not going to be happy until we have a system where we're 100% confident every call is correct. That at this kind of money. I mean, and if anybody feels, just to leave that event and say, man, I'm 100% sure in my mind I got a hit and I got screwed out of 30 grand, 50 grand, whatever it is. We just can't go forward with that, even that, the possibility that happens. I mean, so alleviate it as much as we can.
Well, I mean, if you can't put cameras on every target for every shooter when there's 50 of them and they're getting eliminated down, like you could argue if you don't make the cut of the top 20, then just don't suck as bad, just suck less. But, I mean, the defining moment is getting down to where the money's on the line, and that's the last day really is the main one, so,
Yeah. But still, a guy that, I mean, look, okay, so this year, Brian Allen won day one. I mean, he burned it down, right?
True, that's true.
Had some equipment issues on day two and had a 0, a 1, fixed his issues, came back and shot hard. And I think going into day three, people were talking, they're like, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Well, if you took day two out of it, that before and after Brian's, before and after his equipment issues, he shot as good as anybody. I kind of thought, man, oh man, they bring it and do it on day three, But my point is, if the guy that doesn't make it to day one, from day one to day two because of a bad call, you can say don't suck as less, but he could still win day three. He still could have, right? I mean,
true that.
So I think to me it's just as important at day one as it is day three. But there's a challenge. I mean, running the AG Cup, of course the fire's got to be harder than a normal match. It's got to be fairer than a normal match. How do you make a separation among guys who's good? More rounds maybe. And really, at the end of it, it really wasn't that many more rounds. It was just 3 days. But
the wind did it.
The wind did it for us.
Hey, and even in light wind conditions, the course of fire that you had and the targets that you had, just for the simple fact of a lot of the targets and some of the smaller targets were not on the berm where you couldn't see where your misses were to make a correction on the next one. I mean, it was, even in very light wind, that's a difficult course of fire. I mean, I liked it. I mean, that's, we kind of talked about this too, is so many matches now are won with over 90% hit percentages. And I mean, yeah, that's nice for everybody to go and feel good because everybody's hitting some targets. But at the end of the day, I don't think you always figure out who the best shooter is. You figure out who got just a little bit luckier on one stage and got one more point or something like that. Whereas whenever you have a hard match and you have to grind it out the whole time, I do think that at the end of the match, the best shooter wins.
Yeah, Tom was worried about having like a lot of ties, but it ended up spreading out a little bit nicely at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going to be, I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter how difficult you set it up. Whenever you get 20 or 50 or whatever the best guys there, it's going to be tight. I mean, you're going to have 4 or 5 guys that are just burning it down. They're all going to be right there.
Greg, what'd you got?
I lost it. Oh, Sean said we need a shot tracker like in golf. And so I actually know this dude.
I just tagged him.
We could get Francis out there to do the shot tracker.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be really freaking cool.
I actually met a guy sitting in an airplane one time. I got an upgrade or something. I was sitting up in first class, and the guy beside me was like, "So what do you do?" He's like, "You ever watch golf and you see how the thing flies through the air?" He was a bigwig in that company that came up with that, and I'm like, "Dude, we need that." I challenged John Scouten with it. He usually is watching these things, and I'm like, "Dude, we got to at least have it in the editing process because." What we want to do, I mean, the guys that are watching the AG Cup and following it that are in our community, they know what's going on with that bullet. But half the people that watch Scout and Show, they have no idea of how far that wind's really pushing that bullet, the drop, the max order of that bullet. They really don't know. And imagine like that, you see that shot, it goes up and over and down, and that's really what the bullet's doing. I think it would be, even in editing, to be able to do that and show an audience that would actually portray the difficulty of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think that'd be super awesome. Like, even after shooting for a while, I didn't realize how crazy it was, where my bullet was actually going, which is really scary. I'm shooting a gun and I don't know where my bullet's going. But taking, Emil Praslik's win class, he's talking about like, if you're shooting 1,000 yards, your bullet's going up this high before it comes back down on the target with this much dialed in. I'm like, whoa. So like that would be something super cool to see, even if it's not for every shot, but maybe on the long range stage, all right, we're on, the stage 1,000 for 1,000. And
that would have been a good one, because I think on one of those I was holding like 2.2 mils or something like that. So there's quite a bit of wind going.
Yeah, there definitely was during those stages. But that, that'd be really cool, maybe once or twice during the show, show one that's like kind of far and then show one that's super far. I think that'd be really cool for people that don't know what's going on. So.
You'd have to have a camera with a fast enough frame rate to be able to track the bullet, though, because it's going so much faster than, like I said, a golf ball or football.
So maybe if not even like seeing where the actual bullet goes, but more of like, you can do the math and then approximate.
You could, yeah, and just have a line drawn there, to approximate line.
Yeah, where here goes your bullet. Here's its vertical flight path, and then throw in the little curve to the side for the wind. I think that'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
dude, we gotta get John to do that, and I know Tate's watching, but that's the 1,000 for 1,000 target right there. And
that looks a lot bigger, and it's a lot less blurry than I saw it at the match.
I was about to say, can you move it like this for me?
Because that's what it looked.
That's what it looked like through glass.
Hey, wait, that was a circle?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I didn't know what it was. It was a shape of some sort.
It was a white blob.
I was saying, it kind of looked like this.
Yeah.
Is the way I saw it. So one of the coolest things about AG Cup is, you have the top 50 shooters in the country out there. And, these guys have like really nice gear. They weren't allowed to watch each other shoot, so they'd all walk up to a stage and you'd have an entire squad put like really nice glass up there and put it on the targets for you. And they'd all walk away, and then us media people got to stay and hang out. So I'm like, let's see, which one of these expensive glasses do I want to look through? I looked through every freaking piece of glass on that stage and could not see that target.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Eric said that it was the toughest single target stage he's ever had to spot.
Yep,
It was a tough one for sure.
I'm sure.
Well, it finally got where no one could call it. I mean, everybody was like, I can't see it.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Well,
crazy.
my strategy going in was to hit it on the edge so it wiggled enough where you could see it.
Yeah, there you go.
But it was already.
You think I'm joking, but I'm serious. That was kind of the plan, is to try to make as much target movement as I could.
But it was already wiggling so much.
Yeah.
Well, that target vision camera, man, I'm telling you. I know. Did you even look at it, Austin?
I think I looked at the one. Yeah, I think I saw that.
I mean,
The only thing that I thought about it was just delayed enough to where you could have been sending your second shot. Well, on the one I looked at, it had a little bit of delay on it.
They do.
They
the
did.
lag time and the frame rate was it was less than ideal, but I don't think you could have missed a shot, because you're going to see something. I mean, like I said, I think we gave out. Gosh, I did the math. I think that stage there were 73 points given away, and I've counted this target over and over and over, and just depending on how you judge, it's perfect or we gave 1 point away to somebody, just depending on how you judge it. But I think there's 73 hits on this play, so it wasn't, anyway. It's given the conditions. I think that target vision cam is great, and we will have. I mean, Haywood, the dang, he's going to come up with something, and we're going to test it, and we're going to have something better that's got a lot faster frame rate. That'll help us a lot.
I've already sent him a message. I think I have something too that might help a little bit. We'll see.
Okay.
You got any more lives?
So you guys aren't going to believe this, but the entire P-Winky family said hi, including new baby P-Winky.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Um, um, Eric said he was super happy to have that camera set up.
Well, so interesting on that too, Greg, was I had this camera that Eddie had there at Arena, and he had 3 of them, and we're like, well, okay, let's put them out. Let's see if they work. And none of us had any experience with them. And one of the guys that was there, he's come down and said, man, whatever you need me to help with, I'll help. And he kind of just hang around but he's an instructor at sniper school. And where he saw us trying to figure that camera out, he goes, man, I have hundreds of thousands of hours looking at these cameras. I know how to run these things great. And I was like, here you go.
You got a job. You're hired.
He was extremely confident. He goes, man, I know exactly what I'm doing, man. His name's Quentin Scherf. And he actually, he was one of the guys too. I started the pig on Saturday night, and I'm like, hey man, I got to get some sleep, man. Somebody needs to stay up and keep this fire going around 250 degrees all night. And he's like, I got it. So he gets an MVP award for that alone.
Yeah, thank you for that. It was a delicious pig.
It was very good.
Mm-hmm. I was so happy when that was done cooking. I was starved.
That was a long day.
That was. Yeah, Sunday. Yeah, Sunday was a long day, especially the drive home.
Yeah, we drove all night. We got back in time for a late breakfast the next morning. So,
but dude, you know that you staying was totally worth it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hey, I took the first leg of driving, and I was just driving, and I don't even remember where I made it. But finally, I looked at the clock, and it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, hey, Clay, you want to drive a little bit here? So,
Yep.
it's just kind of still on the adrenaline high from all that happening. So,
you know, one of the bad things about the match is, like, after day 1, guys left. After day 2, guys left. After day 3, we're handing out the cup. There's like 30 people left, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, you know, that was actually one of the reasons that when we first put this concept together for 2020, we were going to do an expo, and we wanted the vendors to have booths set up, kind of like Phil does with the Precision Rifle Expo.
Yeah. So
there would be, you know, in our minds, hundreds of just shooting fans there that don't know you, but that are happy for you and add to the experience, because we know it's a small match and guys are leaving, you know. But we'll continue to work it.
Yeah,
you just make it a requirement that you have to stay all 3 days if you enter the AG Cup.
Yeah, just a clap for the winner.
Yeah.
Be like The Bachelor. Like, if you get kicked off, you're not allowed to be seen in public.
Yeah, you gotta be brought. You bring him back up for the final episode. We can have the tell all.
Yep. That would be interesting.
I don't know.
He's like, I don't know.
It'd probably be pretty boring if that one. We wouldn't get too wild for that.
Well, what was your favorite
I said
stage?
we, not. Oh. Just favorite stage because I thought it was a fun stage, or my favorite stage because it was a turning point?
Well, we're going to ask about turning point in a minute. So what was just your favorite fun stage?
My favorite fun stage, I actually didn't shoot it that well, but I kind of enjoyed on day 2 the kind of critter type troop line on the very left side. We had to run it out and back. I really liked that stage. I really liked the spool stage, doing the strong and weak side, and just the kind of the movement there. Even though I won it this year, I hate that tier stage. The different tiers out there on the edge of the berm. I hated it both years. But it's a good stage. It's tough. It's difficult. It's a very difficult stage.
Even though I won it, I hated it.
I'd have to say that line away. I did.
So that was your favorite stage. So that was one of the questions, is was there a turning point or a spot in the match where you were like, I'm in this. I might go home with the belt and the trophy and the money. Like,
yeah. So day 3, I started off the first 2 stages not great. Our first stage was the tank traps. I dropped 2 points on that, and everybody else was cleaning it. You know, like Tom said, the wind wasn't blowing his first thing in the morning. Everybody cleaned it. And I dropped 2 points there, so I knew I was going to have to climb back out of that 2 points. And then we go to the next stage, which is the rooftop and the little barricade there. and just it was just a lapse in focus is all it was. And it was supposed to be 2 shots on the first target, 2 shots on the second target, 2 shots on the third target. And I get up there and I shoot the first target and I watched it hit land, and I center punch that one, and I go right to the next target on a holdover and shoot. And he doesn't say anything, or I think he says wrong target. And I thought for a second, I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to shoot the first target twice. So I dropped a point on a mental mistake there, which is something that I really strive to not do. Right? It's, when you stop making the mental mistakes is when you start placing better and you start winning matches. And most of the time, a mental mistake costs you not winning the match. And I just knew at that point, that's not good. I'm really going to have to dig it out. And then we got to the wall. The wall was the cross tie stage. Very, very difficult stage. It was pretty long targets, pretty small targets, and the wind was picking up by then. And I cleaned that stage. And I watched I didn't watch, but I just kind of watched the points on all the rest of our squad, and nobody else cleaned it. So at that point, I knew I was back in the match. I just made up those 3 points that I dropped. I could be back in the match. And then after that, I just kind of stayed consistent and kept shooting well, and I stayed really hyper-focused the rest of the time. Once we got to the boat, the Zoom stage, I shot it. I dropped a couple of points on it, but it was a little bit of a difficult stage. Those fish weren't very wide, and that boat had some movement to it, so it was not an easy stage. I dropped 2 points there, which I felt pretty good, 2 out of 12 on that particular stage. I knew Robert Brantley was really close to me. I think he dropped 2 or 3, so I knew I still had a couple of point lead. So at that point, I knew that I had a really good chance to win it.
That's interesting. I know going into day 1, everybody was starting from a clean slate. So figured there had to have been a point when you were like, oh, this is it.
Well, I mean, obviously that was my goal going in, is to make day 3. I would have liked to have won one of the other 2 days. It's $5,000. That'd been awesome. And like I said, day 2, I definitely could have had a chance at it. I wasn't very far off of it. It just didn't happen. But making day 3 was my goal, because then it's anybody's ball game. We're starting over clean. It's anybody's ball game to win day 3. And so I just wanted to make day 3. Wanted to make day 3. Traditionally, I always say I'm a second day shooter. I shoot a little better on second day, but I had no idea what I'd do on third day. So apparently most matches need to be 3 days.
That added a new dynamic, definitely.
Yeah. And I
did. I mean, you kind of sore and tired from 2 pretty long days of shooting and quite a few rounds and being out there all day. So it is a little bit harder to stay focused on that third day.
Yeah, because I know for me, shooting a 2-day match, generally Friday, get up there early, get my zero, reconfirm my dope, play with a couple of props, and then basically have an afternoon of relaxing and, a really good dinner, and then 2 days of match. But I couldn't imagine, 3 days of nonstop match and then driving home overnight.
Well, and we didn't do this very well. I worked Wednesday. I met Clay in Oklahoma City Wednesday night. We didn't leave his house till I think 9 o'clock Wednesday night.
Oh God.
So we drove through the night all the way down there to get to check in so we could shoot in zero. So we drove all night, got there, checked into zero, and didn't sleep until Thursday night. So coming in on Friday, that made it even a little bit more difficult on Friday because we were pretty tired. It wasn't great planning on our part, but Clay had some orders he really had to get filled, and since he was doing that, I figured I might as well work the work day and not have to take extra vacation too. It was tiring, and we really didn't want to drive back, but at the same point, he still had to fill some orders, and I needed to get back to work, so we drove through the night to get back.
Yep, I know that feeling. There's nothing like getting home at, I've gotten home from matches at 4 a.m. and had to work the next day.
Yeah,
it's funny. All my coworkers are actually starting to realize, if I'm not there Friday and I say I'm going shooting, to not talk to me first thing Monday morning because I'm going to be half asleep.
Won't remember what they said.
It's rough.
Yeah. So, hey, we're going to change directions a little bit for a quick little plug for a different match. I'm not sure how many of our viewers know Robert Greatest of Greatest Rifles. He unfortunately passed away not long ago. They're hosting a kind of a memorial charity type match for him here at GTI, right outside of Augusta, Georgia. It's an abandoned nuclear facility that's probably the coolest place I've ever shot. On the weekend of January 24th, they're having a really cool match there. Check the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. All proceeds are going either to the Greatest Family or to some different mental health charities. So if anybody's interested in that match, either hit me up, watch on the Shooter's Mindset page. We're posting anything about the match on there.
It's a really cool place. It actually never had nuclear anything there. It was built as a nuclear facility back in the Jimmy Carter administration, and then it was never used. It was never. So now it's a government training institute, and they do all kinds of training there and shoot some matches. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a big tower that's like 10 stories tall, I think, and they do elevated shooting from the tower, and it's very, very cool.
Mm-hmm. You will definitely see us out there at that one.
That's in January, third week of January, I think, like 23rd, 24th, something like that.
23rd, 24th, I think it is.
So you should come out, Austin.
Yeah, I'm going to have to make that one. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to shoot at it, do some of the building shooting and stuff like that. And it just seems like it's pretty rare that it happens. And when it does happen, it never works out for me to go.
Yeah.
That's definitely in a slow time of the year, so that might be one to hit.
I was about to say it's too cold to do anything in Oklahoma at that time. So come to Georgia.
I saw you
South Carolina.
snuggling up with your blanket there, and I've got a hot fire going over here. And I'm sweating. So
Austin, it could be 75 degrees, and she'd be.
She's got a blanket.
My blanket goes everywhere with me. Don't make fun of it.
I can attest.
It goes to every match with me.
Right.
And I may or may not have been wrapped up in it on day one of the AG Cup.
It's pretty chilly.
It was cold.
It was definitely
freaking
cool for
wind.
Tom forgot to order the warmer weather.
It was obviously really, really cold in Oklahoma. I don't know if you guys know this, but we had a big ice storm come through, and it was. I mean, normally we get cold weather, but not that early. It was, down in the teens for a couple of days. It made training pretty hard on us. I know some of the guys in the north are like, we deal with that all the time. But, it went from 80 degrees to 20 degrees and just with overnight, basically. We got ice storms and a bunch of people were out of power. So I was ready to go to Georgia and warm up, and that didn't happen. That 40-degree Georgia weather felt like 20-degree Oklahoma weather.
Yeah, it was not good. So speaking of Oklahoma and bad weather, not being able to shoot all, the really brutal winter moments. So I think everybody wants to know, you won the AG Cup. You are the cream of the crop in the best shooters, right? So what is your practice regimen like? How do you dry fire? Do you live fire? How much? What tips can you give the mere mortals like me that need to do more of all of the above?
So, early on in my shooting career, I guess you could say, I did a lot of live fire. I never have done a lot of dry fire. I think dry fire has its place, and you should do some of it, but I think too much dry fire can also hurt you more than it benefit you. You need to feel the recoil impulse. You need to be able to spot your shots under that recoil impulse. So, and you don't get that dry fire. I think dry fire is good for some trigger control and some building positions and building steady positions. But other than that, I definitely think it's more beneficial live fire. I shot a lot of rounds early on, practicing. I honestly don't shoot very much now in practice. For me, it's more of mental preparation, just kind of going over steps and going over the stages. When I do practice, I try to practice with a purpose. If there's something that I've been suffering on, something that I've been sucking at, I'll take 30 or 40 rounds, whatever it is. And this is bad because I can walk 10 steps out of my reloading room and shoot at 100 yards. And I can walk about 30 steps and shoot out to 895. So I should shoot more than I probably do.
For real. Like,
yeah.
I have to get in a truck and either enter through the visitor check-in center of a military base or drive an hour, one of the two, and one can be faster than the other.
So I think once you're kind of to the point to where a lot of the good guys are, it's not so much of the trigger time because that's second nature to us now. It's more of the mental preparation. But if I'm not doing well and I'm gonna go do practice on something, I'm gonna take 30 or 40 rounds and I'm going to go practice that one thing. If I didn't shoot barricades that well this match, I may load 30 or 40 rounds up, and I'm only going to shoot off that barricade. I'm going to shoot it like I would in a match. I may change it up and shoot it, make it harder, and shoot multiple targets, or I may hang a smaller target and shoot it, but I'm only going to practice that for those 40 rounds. And then same goes for prone. If I feel like my prone shooting is suffering just a little bit, I'm going to lay down and I'm going to shoot some troop lines. I'm going to try to, honestly, a lot of times when I go, I'll pull the Kesher out to get my elevation data, but I won't put a wind in it, and I will try to kind of just go on wind off the feel. I think that helps you make a better wind caller. So if I think, if I know I'm going to a field type match with a lot of wind, I'll do something like that. But it's rare for me to go out and practice. If I had, one of the questions that I think they asked from the PRS, and a lot of people answered it the same way. If you had 40 rounds of practice, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to make sure my gun has a really good zero, and I'm going to make sure that my data is running really well. And if it takes all 40 rounds to make sure that I have everything lined up, then that's how I'm burning my 40 rounds. So I think it's very important to have all your data correct and your rifle shooting really well. So.
Yeah. So the way I explain that to new shooters and everything is kind of like you're building a house, and your zero and your dope is the foundation of the house, and building your position is going to be building your walls, painting your trim, your trigger pull, all that stuff has to go into the wall, the trim and stuff like that. If your rifle's not zeroed and you don't have good dope, it doesn't matter how good that trigger pull is, that wall ain't going to be straight.
Yeah, that's right. Then you're chasing it, and then it comes to a point of how good are you at spotting your misses, and how good are you at correcting it, and are you knowledgeable enough to realize that I was 2/10 high on this one, I was 2/10 high on that one, and I was 2/10 high on that one. Maybe my zero's off 2/10, and I should start taking 2/10 out of everything, or is it I was a little high here, and then I got a little higher, and then a little higher. Okay, and I know my data's not lining up right, so my velocity or my BC one isn't correct. And some things, some of the more advanced things that some of us have learned is a lot about lighting angles and the different lighting angles and having different point impact. It's a hard thing to track, and it's a hard thing to repeat, but it does happen. But it's also something that you have to realize that it happens, and you have to correct without dropping many shots doing it.
Going back to February, shooting in the snow in North Carolina. I did not know about that.
So for those of us that maybe need more practice and need more help, we were talking last week with Clay about JTAC classes, and I know you're a big part of that.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about JTAC. I know we talked about it last week, but kind of hear your take from it.
Okay. So obviously JTAC, it stands for Justin, Tate, Austin, and Clay. That's the four of us that do it. We started earlier this year. Just kind of really, it was a little bit just last minute. We put a few classes together, didn't have them scheduled out very far, and we got a few guys there and got some really good feedback. So we started scheduling classes a little further out, and still getting really good feedback. We've been getting really good results, and actually guys that have already taken our class want to take it again. They've mentioned that that it's so much information that they're getting that they didn't know, that it's hard to retain all of it in one class. So they're wanting to come back to get another piece of it. So I thought that was really cool. And honestly, as much as all of us, all the JTAC guys win a lot and we go a lot, and as much fun as it is to win, trust me, I'm just as competitive as anybody will meet, and I love to win. But watching somebody that you help, that you train, you watching that light bulb come on, and then watching them actually go to a match and do well, and the excitement that they have because maybe they weren't able to do that before, it's really cool. It's a really rewarding thing. It's really nice to be able to see the results of your hard work. So
yeah, I completely agree. I'm obviously at a much lower level than you. But helping some of my shooters out in my little NRL 22 matches, and giving them that little nugget of information, like people don't know, like, yo dude, like, I know you have you got a game changer under there, but if you squeeze it, the gun goes up and down, or just like super basic stuff, and all of a sudden last match they got maybe 20%, the next match they get 50 or 60%. It's an amazing feeling to know, like,
It's
I helped that dude.
Yeah, it's really funny how some of the things that we take for granted that we think is basic stuff that we may just touch on, or we'll see something and be like, hey, why are you doing that? And that we don't even realize at the time that maybe they didn't know that. And it'll be something that we think is very simple that can be a complete game changer for somebody else. And then obviously a lot of the deeper knowledge that we go over in the win reading and things like that. I mean, every class, it's just it's a ton of great feedback, and then just the guys are like, man, we got guys signing up for one. We get guys hitting us up all the time when we're going to schedule more classes out. Right now, if you guys know any beginners really wanting to start, kind of very beginning, we're going to do a class in January, more of a beginner type class. We've had a lot of requests for that. And then in February, we're going to do another advanced class. Probably kind of the goal is probably a class a month, depending on what kind of interest and what kind of feedback we get from the beginners class. We may alternate beginners, advanced, or if we don't have as many beginners coming, it'll be 2 advanced and then beginners. So, be looking for that. You can follow us on JTAC Precision Rifle Training on Facebook. We'll post all of our dates and stuff there once we get everything finalized. We're kind of waiting, trying to make sure we have all the schedules on all the big matches around. Obviously, there's so many, we can't work around all of them. We'll try to do our best to work around what we can.
I still feel like I'd be taking a beginner's class.
You'd be surprised. I mean, we've had guys, we've really had people from all skill levels show up to our class so far. From hey, I've shot 1 match or 2 matches. I just, I really want to learn something. And I actually had a good friend that I used to work with. He took the class, this last class with us. And I asked him, I said, hey, what do you think about it? He said, man, honestly, I'm really not advanced enough for some of the stuff you were doing. He said, there was just so many small nuggets that you guys said that you probably didn't even realize you said that I picked up on it. That's going to advance me big time. So.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's like I took I went to the Precision Rifle Expo both years, and I took Emil Praslick's win class the first year. And 3/4 of that class was just like a pipeline right over my head. But that little bit that I got, it helped me immensely. So I went back the next year and I was like, I'm going to take this class again. And then about half of the class went right over my head. But I got another 25%. So I figured 2 more years and I might have 3/4 of it.
Might be getting there. Yeah, we start off, we'll do the first half of the first day kind of as a classroom setting, but it's more of a laid back, and we really want a lot of questions and feedback from the guys. First question when we get there is, hey, what's your name and what do you want to learn? What do you want to get from this class? And they'll name everything off and we'll write it down, which most of the stuff we're already going to cover, we're going to plan to cover. But if there's anything somebody brings up that they're struggling with, that they don't know, whether it be advanced or something simple, we want to be able to touch on it. And that's one thing we really try to do. We usually do classes of 20. Do 20 in a class. And then, like this last time, both days we stayed till dark. When we told them right up front, if you guys have anything you want to practice or didn't get, if you want to stay later, we're here. We'll be here till dark. We're here for you guys. So
if I fly out to Oklahoma, y'all better get some of them lights out there. We're going to shoot till midnight.
Hey, that's fine. We'll put up some yard lights. We'll do it like the night match. We've done that.
We'll get my money's worth if I fly out to Oklahoma.
I'll bet you get your money's worth. We'll make sure you get your money's worth. We haven't had anybody complain yet that they hadn't got their money's worth. So.
Hey, since all the JTech guys have shot the AG Cup at least once, most twice, I think you should give the AG Cup Master Director a free slot to one of your classes.
I bet we can work something out.
Let's say if we're doing that, we need AG Cup Media as well.
I'll have to confer with the other guys. Taste the hard nose one. You have to convince.
Hey, you gotta have one in every crowd, man. You gotta have one hard nose.
No, he's not. He's actually really laid back. All of us are, maybe too much so on some of this stuff, but it's a lot of fun. We get along and we give each other a lot of crap the whole time in the deal. So it's a little bit entertaining too. I might be giving Justin a hard time, or he might give Clay a hard time. Justin and Clay complain that me and Tate give them more of a hard time than they give us, but we just said quit being so easy targets. So
That's funny. So hey, I got a question. How many notches are on that big fancy belt back there? I'm just wondering, you think it'll get small enough to fit on Allison's A next year?
It'll get small enough. Oh, it'll get small enough. She better bring it if she's going to. Hey, I know she's a little girl and all, but she's perfectly capable, so I'm not going to take it easier on her.
Oh yeah, she is completely and totally capable of whooping a majority of y'all's butts.
So I haven't actually met her. I shot one match that she was at this last year. Was at Wisconsin. It was a fairly tough match, and I don't remember. She placed pretty well, 6th or 7th or something like that. And I was like, okay, that's pretty impressive because it wasn't just a soft field of shooters there.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few good shooters there. So yeah, I knew she had it. I knew she had it whenever I saw that.
Hey, Austin, Tate just said the combined earnings from the JTech crew at AG Cup is $57,000. So he feels pretty good about hooking me up with a free class.
I am good with it, man. I'll tell you what, you just keep signing those big checks with my name on them, and you can come to all the JTech classes you want.
That is funny. Well, are there any other lives?
Yeah, Clay said some of us are still in the negatives.
Hey, Clay won a stage. We didn't last year, but at least he won one this year. Three of the 4 of us have a cup. So,
dude, Clay racked it up through the year in the qualifier, though, man.
He did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He did really well in all the qualifiers.
Dude,
we need to add that up and figure up what that.
I would assume Clay won close to $10,000 total just in the qualifier this year. Well, maybe it was more like 5 or 6, but
I don't know what he did because he won close to $2,500, $3,000 or something like that for the Hornady, I think, because there's quite a few shooters there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did well. He did really well on all the qualifiers. He can't complain about this year, that's for sure. He might not have had a great AG Cup, but he can't complain about the year.
That is crazy. Any other lives?
I think we're good for right now.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wind it down to shout-outs. It's getting kind of late. Greg, we'll let you start.
Oh, Lord, you put me on the spot here. All right, shout-outs, GSL Suppressors. There's supposed to be a banner right here, but it's hanging at the place that I have my NRL 22 match this weekend still. They make awesome cans. They're super quiet. I got 2 in jail at Craig Shot Pun and Firearms in Thompson. Shooters and Sharpshooters of Augusta, our local indoor and outdoor ranges. PDC Customs for the most beautiful rifle chassis known to man, available in lime green or normal human colors. Phone scope, like super awesome training aid, makes you look super lit for the gram, everything else. Shooter's World Powder, they actually still like have that stuff like in multiple places. So, if you're like panicking trying to find powder, try some of that stuff. It works great and it's still available. Hunter's HC Gold, because I'm blind as a bat, and they make super cool glasses, let me see the target so I could attempt to shoot at them or the dirt around them. And Bortec to keep your rifle nice and clean.
All right. Tom, you got any shout-outs?
Well, since we're talking about the AG Cup, all the guys that I always give a thanks to the sponsors and to all those guys again. I'm not going to list them all. But, the big money at this match came from the guys that said, you know what, I'm going for it, man. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to go for it. And I've had a lot of guys hit me up, with messages and stuff since the 2020 AG Cup, says, man, I'm all in next year. I'm going for it. And so, this is a community that really supports itself. And with the sponsors, they're part of this community. They make their living in this community. They support something like this that goes to back to the competitors. And the competitors that are in this thing, man, I mean, they're carrying the lion's share. The $50,000 that was paid out came from those guys, and they had a chance to win it back or not. But it's just, again, man, I'm so thankful to be a part of this community. I've made some of the best friends I'll cherish the rest of my life in this community, and I just love it, man. So
you even had a new shooter that first year competing that went all out for the AG Cup, didn't you?
He did. Very good. Adam
Robinson.
Yep, Adam. He did great, man. He came in, so man, I'm going to go for it, and the guy shot really good. I'm not sure how new of a shooter he was, but he really.
He's fairly new. He's a JTAC shooter. He came and took our class. He's definitely we're definitely proud of Adam. He's done really well.
Dude, he burned it down, man. Made it day 3 and did great.
Won a stage.
Yep. So, on behalf of myself and the AG Armageddon Gear employees, man, thanks to the guys that support the sport and support us as a company. Thank you.
Austin, what shout outs you got?
Oh, well, obviously Impact Precision. Man, Tate does a ton for the sport. He does a ton for us, and we don't even have to ask him. He just does it. Foundation Stocks, John, Colin, Amy, they're at a ton of matches every year. They're very involved, very supportive.
I thought Amy was going to have a heart attack, but.
Yeah, I think she was more excited and more nervous than I was.
She was sitting there like this while you were shooting. Like the last stage, she was like standing there like this.
Yeah, I think she was more nervous than I was, and I was pretty nervous going in the last one.
She was wound up tight during that last stage.
Yeah. But that's awesome. I mean, the support that they give and do for this community is just second to none. So, Proof Research, Proof Barrels, I've been running them for a couple of years now. Been loving that. Wade Studeville, he does all my barrel work, all my gunsmithing, everything. And if you're running an Impact, you just call up Wade or go to Impact and Wade chambers those barrels, and you get it and you stick with the same caliber and you never have to change anything. I don't know how many Studeville barrels I've shot out now, and I don't think I've ever changed my die. So it's just falls right into the other one.
Damn.
Hawkins Precision, he makes great bottom metal, scope rings. Andy Hawkins, man, he's a great guy, a good friend. Actually, he was in a squad with me on the very first 2-day match I ever won in Kansas. So go back to the beginning with him. Bix and Andy Triggers, you check them out at Bullets Central. I've tried to turn a lot of people onto them. You can put different shoes on them. I prefer the Gator Grip shoe, but a lot of people like the 90-degree flat shoes and the different things, but they're pretty customizable. Adjustable sear. Man, I've been running. I got one of their very first Tac Sport Pros that they got in the very beginning, and I've been running it since then, and I've never had an issue with it, so I definitely can't complain about that. We run the gear we run because it works, not because people give it to us or any sponsorships or anything like that. We run them because that's what we trust and that's what we know. We bad. Close your ears, Tom. We bad run his bags. Hey, I run your bags too, Tom. I really love. I love a game changer.
This is a good venue for me to say this. The guys down at We Bad are awesome guys. I've used their stuff before I started making my own. It's American made. It's high quality. I'd much rather use. We're not petty in this industry, and I give them the best, man. If they're successful, then I'm going to be successful, and if I'm being safe, they're going to be successful. So don't ever worry about that kind of stuff, man. With me.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Clay's Cartridge Company, got a shirt on here. He's loading my ammo. With a new kid, and I did change jobs, so I get to be home more, but it just takes a big load off of me to not have to load that ammo. I just send it to him. I'm pretty sure his little cranking arm gets tired, but I send him all my brass. I send him my components, and he loads them. So it's really been an awesome thing for me because then I don't have to worry about it. I tell him what load I want. I know he'll work up loads for you. You can send him his rifle. He'll do it all. You just have to get with him on pricing and things like that.
Will he shoot for me too?
He might. I don't know. Everything's got a price, right?
So I see Clay all the time, but I've never. So you can honestly go just buy a box of ammo from Clay, right? Just pay to 308. But like if I say, hey man, this load works for my gun, he'll tailor it, or I can send him the whole damn gun, and he'd be like, hey man, I got a better load for you.
And now we know that Tom does not watch the Shooter's Mindset.
Yeah, well,
That's right.
I did see it last when you had Clay, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I noticed you were doing it with Clay, but anyway.
It's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. Right here. I
you can
understand,
send him,
Tom.
Yep.
send him your whole rifle. He'll
Yep.
work up a load. He'll run it out for you and give you your data.
I'm one of those guys that like, oh, this shot good enough. I'll just load that real quick, you know.
Yep. But so if anybody wants to know a whole lot of information about Clay's Cartridge Company, check out the Shooter's Mindset episode 317 from last week. We had Clay on here. We went into everything with him.
I do need to mention Hornady too. I just started running their bullets this year. I tried to. I didn't want to run the A tips. I didn't want to run the 110s. You know, they're a little bit more expensive, but you know, I bought them this year. I paid for them. And started running them, and they've been the easiest bullet to get running. And now I'd just as soon pay full price for them as to go back to anything at this point.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. If you find something that works, go with it.
Like I said, we run what works.
Yep. What caliber do you shoot?
6 Dasher.
Okay.
So, yep, I've been running a Dasher. I kind of, you know, for a while I'd go a little bit back and forth between a Dasher and a Creedmoor, shoot a Creedmoor a little bit, some of the maybe the windier matches and some stuff like that. But I just always seem to find myself going back to the Dasher, and I just kind of decided to take some workload off me and not have to worry about more than one rifle. So I just would have 2 identical Dashers, one for a backup rifle, and one usually on a higher round count, maybe one on a lower round count to be able to swap back and forth on. So.
That's awesome.
Works.
All right, I guess we'll wind it down to me. So shout outs to McMillan Stocks, Prime Ammunition, GSL Suppressors, Night Force Optics, Shooters of Augusta and Sharpshooters of Augusta, and HD Gold. And I just want to thank both of y'all for coming on and spending, gosh, a little over 2 hours with us tonight on your Tuesday night. I know everybody's busy and has a lot to do, so I appreciate y'all coming and talking about AG Cup and kind of getting some behind the scenes in there. So everybody can kind of judge if they want to go for it next year, right? So that'll be it for episode 318 of the Shooters.
We need to thank Tom too, because none of this would have been possible without him. Tom, man, thanks for putting all this together.
Real.
You've really brought something to the shooting world that I thought coming in the beginning that I thought it needed. I came from rodeo, you know, and rodeo is really does really good at self-sustaining and doing payouts and cash payout, and a ton of people get into it and chase it hard. And I think we're on the right path for that now, and that's a big part of what you've done here. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks for inviting us out, letting us, you know, cover the match, feeding us and drinking us all weekend. It was an awesome experience, and hopefully we brought it to people at home.
Now you can say Tom took you home.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. Tom Fuller.
I literally was like, Tom, can you please take him to his cabin?
Yeah, like he didn't have more things to worry about all year round.
They took him up to his cabin.
It's the night I fell asleep. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and close this thing out now.
So that'll be it for episode 318 of the Shooter's Mindset, and we'll see y'all next week.